Hi, kia ora, and welcome to Creative Connections, where we have beautiful, inspiring conversations with artists living in Aotearoa, New Zealand. I'm your host, Mandy Jakic. Hi, welcome back to Creative Connections. I just wanted to remind you before I start that we have our Creative Connections group show coming up at Kumu Arts. It actually starts on the 24th of June 2025, and opening night is the 27th, which is a Friday, from 5 till 8. So we're going to have more than 60 artists who have been on the podcast showing one or two of their works. So it's going to be an incredible show, and I really hope you can get along at some stage. This is the last episode of Season 7, and in a few weeks we'll be starting Season 8, and I'll be back into recording every week, which I'm really looking forward to, and it gives you a little bit more listening. So thank you for your patience over the last few months, and we'll be back with gusto for the next season. Looking forward to that. This episode is a beautiful episode and a lovely one to finish for Season 7. I'm speaking with Janette Cervin and Jake Kennedy. Janette Cervin is a contemporary painter. She lives in Warkworth, north of Tāmaki Makaurau Auckland, with her partner and artistic collaborator, Jake Kennedy. Jan creates beautiful large-scale paintings that offer an invitation to an immersive antipodean paradise, teeming with exquisitely detailed New Zealand flora and fauna. A unique illusion of depth is created through the combination of traditional painting conventions and applications of thick layers of glossy resin, which is where Jake Kennedy comes in. This is a very special chat with Janette, and I really loved welcoming Jake to the conversation partway through to talk about his involvement in Janette's artistic process. Jan and I explore a number of personal life challenges that she has had and how these have influenced her paintings. We discuss her early successful career in craft and decorative painting, which formed the context for her commitment to explore formal art and academic education as an adult student, completing a master's degree in fine art in 2014. Jan shares how her paintings evolve, the happy accidents that have informed her practice, her folk art-inspired painting techniques, and the different brushes she uses for different parts of the flowers, and also how she creates the incredible depth and layering in her paintings. It was so beautiful to see the formidable team that is Jake and Jan together, and inspiring to see the obvious love and respect they have for each other. We talk about their shared goals, the way they work together, how they complement each other, and how they both contribute to their art practice and process. Jake goes into detail about his part of the resin process, experimenting with colour using pigments and dyes, two-pot polyester resin application, his process of layering and sanding between layers, and also the reusing and reconstructing of old paintings. This is the most gorgeous chat with two lovely New Zealanders. I know you'll enjoy it as much as I did. Good morning, Janette.
Good morning, Mandy.
It is so lovely to have you here. This is our second attempt.
Yep.
We got rained off, I think, one day with cyclone, whatever it was called.
Yep, that was pretty bad weather.
Yeah, it was terrible weather, so we decided to reschedule. So it's lovely to have you in the studio at Muriwai, and also to have your lovely husband, Jake, here as well, who is also going to talk to us a bit later. So, big warm welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
And we saw each other over the weekend. You came to the Muriwai Artists Collective Open Studios, which is really nice to see you. And we have met a few times at Parnell Gallery. So, we thought when we met, actually, it was quite we just had a real connection, didn't we?
Yeah.
And it was like, we need to talk more about this.
Definitely.
Yeah. So that was really nice.
Yeah.
And here you both are, which is fantastic. So it's a really interesting story with lots of different levels, I think. So let's get into it. Can you tell us where you were born and what you were like as a kid?
I was born in Auckland, the second child to four, and we were brought up out in West Auckland, Te Aratū South. So I went to school, Catholic upbringing, very quite strict with the nuns, but always interested in creating from a really young age. It was what I loved to do. And I had a lovely sister, Agatha was her name, who used to really encourage me to draw and to paint. And she used to send me around to other classes, showing my work off to the other nuns would hold it up in front of their classes, and it gave me a real buzz. So that was right from the beginning. I got really into drawing. That was my thing, drawing and sports. Everything else was maths. I was terrible.
Everything else went by the wayside.
Yeah,
very smart. And you grew up in a house and a garden that was full of flowers. Can you tell us how that was for you and how that influenced your creativity?
Yeah, we grew up in West Auckland, and then when I was about 10, we moved out to Whenuapai. Mum and Dad were creative types. Dad was trained as a draftsman, and then he was a plasterer. Mum was a charge nurse for years, but she loved all the crafts, renovating. They renovated an old villa, and she did flower painting and art classes, and they worked tirelessly to an half-acre property, just creating a garden. So the garden, sort of moved inside with all the flowers and the flower arrangements that she was doing, and the wallpapers and the curtains. It was quite a visual feast, I think. Growing up.
It sounds like you've recreated that with your current home.
We have, yeah. Yeah, we have.
Yeah. And you've lived, even your previous house sounds like it was very similar as well.
Yeah, we had an old villa when I, with my first husband, he wanted to have an apartment in the city with no garden and no lawn, and I wanted an old villa in the countryside with chooks. So complete opposites. Yeah, I stayed there for about 30 years on that old house, in a big old villa with a return veranda, and created a garden there and renovated it. We split up when I was pregnant with my fourth child. So, but carried on staying there. I wanted to move back out to the country, but by then my kids were so settled in with friends that they would kick up Bobsy Die if I even suggested moving anywhere.
Yeah, so I can imagine.
I was stuck.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like your sort of environment and the way that you were raised has really influenced the person you are, and now your art practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, hugely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I read somewhere that you didn't do art at high school, is that right?
No, I did do art at high school, but by that stage, I was at St Dominic's, and the nuns didn't encourage art as a career. So, I didn't do that well in the fifth form art. In fact, we didn't even have a teacher. I think the teacher left because the nuns didn't approve of some of the life drawings and stuff we were doing.
Really?
They had a falling out. So for the fifth form art, we actually had just a spare teacher. So,
isn't that awful?
Yeah, it was awful. So it was just because I'd always done so well. I'd always, been top of the class in art. And then when I did my school C, I was so disappointed at getting just 65% because I was just copying. I was just creating my own. And I saw other people's work from different schools, and they were doing things that were so experimental and fun, whereas I was just copying, pictures from books. And even though I was good at what I was doing, it wasn't experimental. It wasn't.
You weren't expressing yourself.
No, not at all. So so I wanted to go on and do an art degree, but because I was I was a bit naughty at school with the nuns.
You look like you got a little naughtiness about you.
Yes, there was a bit of naughtiness. No, I didn't get on with the nuns, or they didn't get on with me. And I had a particularly difficult nun, very challenging. She had a very bad temper and would lose it, quite a bit and carry on. And she was quite terrifying. So, yeah, I played up and got suspended in the 5th form. And they actually said to me, that if you don't get school certificates, you won't be accepted back at school. So that actually gave me a real nudge to settle down and study. So I managed to pass all my subjects, and I was hoping to go into art school, but Mum and Dad both decided no, art school wasn't the place for me because they weren't going to support me for 4 years while I mucked around again. And I thought that was going to be, pretty tragic for me, having to go out and be I was a shorthand typist, which I absolutely hated. But looking back, that was probably the best thing that happened to me, because I wouldn't have coped well with art school back then, just doing realism, and I wasn't ready for the experimental stuff that the other kids had been learning at school.
Yeah.
So I think it was a blessing. So I went on and just did office work, which I wasn't very good at. Carried on just doing art, at home and creating stuff, and then got pregnant at 19, and that was difficult. That was a really difficult, challenging time, with my parents being, quite strict, and Mum had sort of booked me into Bethany, where you adopt your babies out.
Oh my goodness.
So I went along and had some social worker talk to me and tell me when I said to her I want to keep the baby, I know I'm 19, I can cope. And she said, no, you're very selfish. You're a very selfish woman to think, or young woman to think, that you could bring up a baby. It needs to go into a home with 2 parents. So that was sort of just accepted. I would be adopting Sarah out. She was due on the 25th of July. I couldn't really talk to anyone about wanting to keep my baby. It was all, this is what's happening, and so you'll have a sheath and the baby can be taken away, and you have to see her, and that make it easier. And then on the 24th of June I went into labour a month early, and because they thought I was premature, I was very small anyway, so they rushed me up to National Women's, and the baby was born pretty much straight away. I started having contractions in the heavy contractions, and the baby was about to be born in the ambulance, so they went through the lights, put the sirens on, and pretty much as soon as I arrived in there, the baby was born, and they didn't know what was supposed to be happening, and passed my baby to me, and I just looked at Mum, who was with me in the ambulance, because I was on my own, and I thought, there's no way anyone's going to take this baby away from me now.
Thank you for sharing that. And isn't it crazy that kind of thing actually happened? Yeah. That whole Bethany house where you had to go if you got pregnant, and
the nuns
secretly, give birth to the child and it gets whisked away. I mean, it is crazy that actually happened. 40 years ago?
Well, it was 30? She was born in 1980, and I think Bethany was closed down in the early 1980s.
Well, I'm so glad you managed to keep Sarah.
Yeah, me too. She was just the most beautiful baby. I was worried that she'd have, I was born with a port wine birthmark on most of the left side of my face. I've had plenty of surgery over the years, so It's not nearly as noticeable now.
Oh, wow.
But I got a lot of teasing at school, a lot of bullying. It was pretty difficult, and I was told that it was hereditary, and I was terrified that Sarah was going to have to go through the same thing. But she was perfect, absolutely perfect, and it was such a relief that she was just this gorgeous little baby.
How amazing.
Yeah, so as a solo mum looking for extra money, I started going back to art and just creating furniture. I had an old friend make up some chairs and designs for kids' furniture. Wow.
Whoa, there's a kid.
That was very close.
Coming to say hi?
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
And I would paint teddy bears and anything from a kid's favourite book onto this furniture, with commissions from people, and do craft shows all around the place. Be travelling every weekend to different venues, and then Craft World started. Do you remember Craft
I did.
World?
Yeah, there was one in Westgate.
Westgate.
Yeah.
That was the first one, a couple from Canada. Carl and Mary Ann started that, and they approached me at a craft fair out in Clevedon and said, would you like to be involved in it? And I thought, we'll give it a go. So, so started putting work in there, and it went really well. I often sold out. I'd go in the weekend and my store would be virtually empty.
Really?
And I'd be doing garden signs and old cream cans and painting roses on teapots and the bits of furniture that I did, garden signs. Please close the gate signs.
Really?
Yeah.
And you're starting to paint on objects?
On objects. And I would often, by that stage, I'd had Dave and I had got back together. Forgot to mention that bit, but we got back together.
The father of Sarah.
The father of Sarah. And we had 3 more children in between. But that's when we had Sam, separated again, when I was pregnant with Sam. It was another difficult period in my life with the thought of having a 4th baby, but being brought up very strict Catholic. My uncle was a Catholic priest. It was Catholic schooling, and I knew of a couple of young girls that had got pregnant, had an abortion and had breakdowns, and I thought, after talking to my doctor, I'd probably be in that, in that area as well. So decided, well, if I can do 3 on my own, I'll do 4. So had Sam, and back then you could, daycare centres and that weren't really around. You just I had to work from home, and I'd put the kids to bed and often be up till 3 o'clock in the morning painting for craft fairs, and especially when it came to Christmas time, it was really busy and a lot of work for little pay. So really long hours.
But it meant that you could be with your children.
I could be with the kids, be home for the kids, and I'd have homestay students, lots of homestay students from all over the world to help with the mortgage and permanent boarder. So managed to get through. And when the kids got older, left school, I think Sam would have been just about leaving school, and I decided to go and do an art degree. And it's when I met Jake around that time.
Really?
And
so when was that?
Gosh, how long ago was that, Jake? 15 years?
15 years ago.
So that's when I started studying and sold the house that I'd had for 27 years, a big old villa, and we bought something smaller, still in Sandringham, because the kids were still more independent, but still at home, so still had to stay around the same area. And bought a cheaper house and went and studied for initially 3 years, and then decided at the end of 3 years I'd do my masters.
How amazing!
Yeah,
and good on you. What a woman to bring up 4 children by yourself, and then to come back to what you're most passionate about.
And I was ready for it. Yeah, it was really the right time. I've been so upset and angry at my parents. Yeah, really realising that this was now the right time for me to go and do the study. I wouldn't have lasted.
And it was so good that you actually came back and sort of got to the point, but you felt ready.
I was ready, yeah.
And was it something that you always thought you would end up doing?
I did. I always thought I would. And that was definitely the right time. In that period of bringing the kids and having Craft World and craft shows, and I did sell to a couple of shops in Ponsonby Road, and one over in Devonport, Something Old, Something New, I think it was called. And but it was actually quite successful considering, it was craft work.
And was it still mostly floral?
A lot of floral, yeah. Back then I was doing, I'd done China painting, towel painting, folk art, painted China dolls' faces, did dolls, and and then painting on objects and creating designs for kids' furniture. With all that experience, and I'd gone to art class to learn landscape painting and portrait painting, different artists along the way. which was really a really fun period, actually, learning. I had some really good teachers. Lib Stewart was one. She was really lovely, the late Lib Stewart. And Rob Campion, he was very technically skilled at landscapes. He was taught by Tim Wilson. So sort of all those, the craft and the art just sort of merged, and that background that I had was actually really helpful going into study. And I went along and I got accepted into AUT and Elam. Yeah, I went to Elam and Unitec, and then decided, no, I'm going to go to Unitec, because I walked in there and it was just that beautiful big open spaces and the little stream that they have down there. It was just a really nice area to be studying and painting flowers, because I knew I'd be painting flowers. So I chose Unitec. A lot of people said to me, why are you going to Unitec? AUT's got in Elam, we've got better names. And
you got into Elam, which wasn't that easy in those days, was it?
No.
Did you just feel like you needed to kind of hone your craft and learn some skills?
Yes, yeah. I went in expecting that we would learn more about perspective and colour mixing and all of that, but there wasn't a lot of Western style training. It was pretty much you just develop your own style
and practice
and you practice,
which would have also been good for you, I imagine.
Yeah. Well, I missed a bit there. I started off doing a course on interior decorating, thinking I'll go into interior decor and design, and I did an elective with painting with Richard Fahey from Unitec, and that's how I got in. And decided, no, painting. I don't want to do interior decorating. It's painting. I want to do.
It's painting. And how did you get to that point of thinking, actually, it's painting that I want to do?
Because I was I got an A,
which was good.
From Richard Fahey, which was really good.
Yeah.
And he encouraged me. He thought I could be doing a painting degree. So I remember going along to my interview with him, and he looked at me and he said, "Oh, this will take 5 minutes. Pretty much, you're in."
Really.
So, and I just felt comfortable. He was a good tutor. There was just so many good tutors back then. It was such a really fun time, experiment, and it was a supportive environment. Great friends that you still see people today that I.
And for you, becoming a solo mum at 19, it must have just been such a haven and a place for you to be yourself and almost discover and develop yourself, because you'd been so focused on raising kids.
That's right, yeah.
Which is such a blessing, so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're easy to mould. The tutors can sort of, I think a lot of the kids when they start off into the direction that they might want to take them, but as a mature student, I was pretty stubborn about, they'd come along and suggest I do more abstract work or do, change my style so it wasn't so realistic. And I'd just listen to them and go, yep, thanks for the advice, but I'd stubbornly just go on and do what I was doing. And I think when you're younger, if I was younger, I probably would have changed my style.
Yeah. You would have been more influenced.
I would have been definitely more influenced, I think.
And I wonder, do you think it was just the growing up with flowers in your world that really made you want to paint flowers? Or was there something else?
Probably. I think flowers are, when I was young, I used to draw portraits all the time. I was always doing faces, beautiful faces, and long hair and eyes and eyelashes, and, I'd spend a lot of time painting, probably because of the way I looked, and I didn't feel like I was pretty. I'd always draw pretty faces and pretty woman, and but as time went on and I was doing the craft world thing, flowers were obviously a natural progression to go into painting flowers. When Mum and Dad grew flowers, we'd spend ages, picking the lilies, and they'd have to be packed and sent off to America or different places around the world. So the floral has been a big part of my life. But they're also forgiving. Portraits I find so difficult. You get the eye slightly wrong. Well, lots of artists have used flowers as a motif just to extend their practice and to explore. And that's, I think, what I did. It was a motif and a decorative, repetitive way of learning to paint and experiment. Yeah.
And what do you feel like you learned from that experience at uni? I mean, obviously so much, but what was it? How did you see your practice shift through that time?
Well, one of the main shifts was Richard saying to me, "Don't lose your skills." The toll painting, the China painting that I'd done for years and become quite accomplished at. Don't write all that off. Just get he encouraged me to go for a bigger brush. Go and get a house brush this big, rather than the little folk art brushes, which were a quarter of an inch, half an inch. Yeah, that's what I did. And then Carl Morn was another one. He came in and he bought a little painting off me. It was only, 6 inches diameter. And gave me, and I said $50, and he gave me $200. He said, "I'm not paying $50 for it." And then he also bought in a frame that would be as big as this wall of the studio, and that he'd got in Florence. And he said, "I want you to paint flowers, hydrangeas all over it with a big brush." And I just sat and looked at that frame for maybe 2 weeks and just freaked out, thinking I don't even know where to start.
Really?
So Mandy stepped in, and my tutor at the time, and she said, "Just start. You're in a hole. Just dig your way out of it, paint your way out of it." So that's when I started painting the easel, and then I painted the chair and the table and the bookcase, and then the books over the bookcase, and then the window, which was already graffitied all over. So I painted flowers like it was the day of the Triffids coming up through the window, and over the pipes and over the heater and up the walls and connecting with the furniture.
So that was the furniture in the room that the frame was in.
That's right. Yeah.
So you were like working your way towards the frame.
I was working my way towards the frame. Yeah,
that's so interesting. Yeah. And why did you feel that was going to be helpful?
I didn't know where that was going to go. I was just doing something because I didn't know what else to do, and Mandy's advice was just to start somewhere. So then I started researching. People would come in and go, "God, some of the students, I could hear them when I'm on the floor painting over the heater, and I could hear some of the students say, 'She's like a robot. Just look at her. She's a bit crazy.'"
Really?
Yeah. And so I started researching obsessive compulsive artists and came across some really cool stuff, like Lisa Liu, this Asian artist, and she had used beads she'd redone her whole kitchen, or fake kitchen, over the taps and the bench and the rinse, the dishwashing liquid, the tea towel, the stove, the floor, everything.
Wow.
Everything was little.
It's a bit beads. Like beads. How incredible!
I know, it
was like
incredible.
Yayoi Kusama, sort of that immersive.
Total immersive, yeah. So we started researching women in art and the crafts, and how often at the end, our fingertips are full of nerves, and I think when you're worrying about stuff, you're knitting and crocheting and using your hands is really therapeutic and repetitive. And my painting was repetitive in a lot of ways. That style I use with doing flowers, it's a repetitive stroke, and just I turn the board up around round sideways and upside down.
But I guess it was quite a good way for you to develop your craft.
Yeah.
It was you painting and painting. And then did you actually get to that large frame in the end?
No, it's still sitting there in my studio.
Oh wow.
Haven't done it.
But it was enough for you to think about scale, I suppose.
It was, yeah.
And why were they so interested in getting you to go big, do you think?
I think, Carl Morn said it quite well. He said, as a mature student and you're painting flowers, people could just, walk past. You've got to do something different. And his paintings, he creates them so you're immersed into them. It's an experience. You're not just walking past and going, "Oh, there's another flower painter."
And I guess sort of helping you to get away from that sort of female domesticated of view of that some people have of floral artists.
Women flower painters. Yeah.
It's all like this sort of older women painting watercolour flowers, or not that you were older, but yeah. So they were helping you to bring something new and different to your floral works, do you think?
Yeah, they were. Yeah, that was good advice to go big. And because the boards were quite expensive to get made up back then, well, they still are, but I wouldn't want to, if I'd had a failed painting, waste the board. So I'd started spraying black spray paint over them, but because it was a big brush, they were quite textured. So I'd get the electric sander out and sand them back, and then I went, wow, that's pretty cool, this effect of that's left behind of the skeletal brush marks. So
it's actually surprising that the marks sort of get brought to the surface from the sanding, isn't it?
Yes, I thought but because the paint was thick, it wasn't runny paint, it was quite thick folk art, Joe Sonia paints, and they sort of got a real chalkiness to them. So they did show the harsher brush marks of a house brush, and yeah, so they left these lovely lines, and I just say the skeleton of the rose of the petals, and then I would rub dye into them, and you get some of the colours, and that would be the start, and that became the start of every painting, because my paintings were large, and starting off on a white board is quite intimidating and overwhelming, but you've got something to start from, and then from the colours I'd used with the dye and the areas, I think I'm going to keep that area, and then that would just morph into something else. So you just evolve from that beginning of what we call pentimento. We look back and thinking, what's the term for that? And they said old masters would sometimes let the image come through of a previous painting, and it was called pentimento. So that's what, out of that mistake, of sanding over a failed painting, was the epiphany of this background that I use still now.
How incredible.
And people will look at it and think, how has she done that? And that's out of a mistake.
Isn't that good?
Yeah.
And that's why it is so good to actually just be making, because that's when you do so much learning, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
When you're like, oh, that's interesting. And I wonder if you would have found that by yourself.
No, don't think so.
And you had the guts to be more experimental with that support network, I suppose.
Definitely.
Yeah. And did you feel like going to uni sort of helped you talk about your work and brought that element in as well?
Yeah, it did. I was never very good at talking about my work. I remember our workshops and that we had. Public speaking was terrible. That probably goes back to the days of the nuns, actually, and public speaking. I'd won a competition. Actually, I'd won a first competition when I was really young, in first year of school. But I remember ASB used to sponsor kids to paint pictures of saving money, and I did this.
Like
I remember
posters.
doing this. Yeah, back posters. I did a chicken on a nest of eggs, and that won first prize, and I got a book, and I was very proud. Sister Agatha sent me around the classes showing off my painting. And
really?
That was lovely. And then I did another one back in when I was in the fourth form, and I won a maths competition, and I won a prize, and I went up to receive the prize from Sister Alphonsus, and I just hated going up on stage, so I raced up there, shook her hand and ran down, and then she used that as an example to everyone on Friday morning assembly to say, that is not how you receive a prize. Janette Cervin, please come back up and walk up the steps one step at a time, stand there and look at me and say thank you very much. And it was so humiliating.
Oh my God, that's terrible. I feel your pain.
It was mortifying.
Oh,
So I
that's
thought
so
I'm
bad.
not ever going to put myself in for another art competition ever again.
But you have come back to that. We can talk about that later, which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's I'm glad you kind of left some of that negative stuff behind and still managed to find your passion. That's so good. Yeah, brilliant.
Yes.
So you did all that work, and as well as raising your children by yourself, you got yourself through uni, and then where to from there? How did you find that shift coming out of uni and becoming an artist? Were you working full time as an artist when you came out?
Yes, I was. we still had the students, homestay students, and at that stage, Jake was you and I were living together, and we'd sold Sandringham, the villa, and so I had a bit of money in the bank because we'd sold it for a lot more than the house we'd bought. And then I did start putting some work in the depot. Was my first exhibition, and I sold quite a bit of work, so that gave me inspiration and to carry on.
And was your work then still larger?
Was still
scale?
Larger, floral.
Was it similar to what you're doing now?
Yeah. When I met Jake was when the resin sort of came into being, because I'd been studying the Vanitas painters. They were sort of wagging their finger at what was happening with the Dutch tulip mania, and how the prices of that, I think that particular red and white tulip was sold for the price of a house. The bulbs were so ridiculously expensive. And so the painters around that era, the Vanitas still life painters, were putting in things like skulls and candles burning and what else? Yeah, and flowers dying, just to show that these worldly possessions weren't that important, that were material possessions, and we were all going to die in the end. So we started playing around with high gloss varnish, and then went on to resin, so you could see the reflection of the vanity side of it, and that's how we got into the resin.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So 2014, you bought your property up in Warkworth.
2014, yes,
2014.
Yeah.
So that was not long after your study.
Yeah.
And then, so you that was an old villa as well. Did you start developing that and the garden in there?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then now I've seen photos of it. It's just like this gorgeous, it's not really like a museum, but it's kind of heading towards it. It's just full of incredible things that you and Jake have collected over the years. And Jake, it's very difficult because we only have 2 microphones, so Jake is dying to speak, but we will talk to you in a second.
Yeah.
Sorry, we can't accommodate 2 of you speaking at once. So you're doing all that work at uni, and then you left, which can be a difficult time for some people. Were you starting to think of yourself as a practicing artist, as a professional artist at uni, or did that come a little bit later? And what helped you to really think of yourself as an artist?
I think I was encouraged to put my work into some art competitions, and I did quite well at Warkworth, I think. I got 2 in the consecutive years, People's Choice, and Print and Paint Making Award. But I started to realise I could maybe make a living out of this, because my works were selling when I had little exhibitions. And then the Vivian Gallery was the first gallery I had a solo show.
And they represented you?
And they represented me. That was when Helen was running it, and Mandy, who was my tutor, she'd moved up our way as well, and she encouraged me to put work in. And they were selling. And then from the Vivian Gallery, I had a lovely email from the manager of Gallery 33 at the time, saying that she'd been up, and it was such a cool email. She just put, wow, in capital letters, love your work. Can you we want you down here in Wanaka. So
fantastic.
Got into that, and they went really well down there initially. And eventually, now we're at Parnell Gallery in Parnell and Art Bay.
Which is down south as well. Yeah, which is great. And you're still with Gallery 33?
No, because I had been approached by Art Bay, it was too close and I had to make a choice.
Right.
So I chose Art Bay. In retrospect, I probably should have stuck with Gallery 33.
Were you just thinking maybe there's new opportunities?
Yeah, I did. And a lot of the artists that they had in Art Bay, I sort of admired their work, and I thought maybe that might be more fitting for my work. But
why do you say you should have stayed?
I think they had a woman called Laura Owens, who was she was an art set she wrote for Art Scene in the Otago Daily Times, and she wrote glowing reports of my work. She bought a piece of my work and she loved it. So all the exhibitions I had great feedback.
And good write-ups. Yeah, that helps, doesn't it?
It really did help.
Contact.
And you go to Art Bay and there's nothing. They don't do anything like that. And I haven't had a solo show there, so I was having a solo show every year. So I look back and think, probably should have stayed there.
And Art Bay's Queenstown, is that right?
Yeah.
And Gallery 33 is Wanaka.
And
it's they consider it too close.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
I know, it was.
Doesn't
I
seem that close
wasn't
to
expecting
me.
that to happen, that I would had to choose one or the other.
That is a shame, and it's a tricky one, isn't it, when galleries have kind of a bit more territorial.
Yeah.
You know, I think some galleries aren't so much, and some are. But it can be hard for the artist because you're just trying to make a living.
Yeah.
But then I can understand how it must be for galleries also. You know, you don't want to spread yourself too thin or, you know, it is quite a tricky one.
Yeah.
But you've got a great relationship with Parnell Gallery and you've just had a joint show there. Yeah. How did that go?
Oh, that was a bit disappointing. Still licking my wounds over that one. But you've got, as an artist, I think, develop a thick skin and just go, all right, well, that didn't go so well. Great feedback, and the gallery really did promote us. And we got involved in the art battle, and we tried, that was on at the time that my exhibition was on, and sat in the front window and did some demonstrations of my technique, which
I love
gathered
that.
quite a crowd because it is, I think, interesting for people to watch how I blend so many colours on a big brush, and within minutes you can create a rose. It's just a folk art technique, but rather than having 2 colours on your brush, you might have 6, and it goes from one, darkest to lightest, and within a few strokes you can create a flower.
It's amazing that. We'll talk a little bit more about your process soon.
Yeah. So
and I know how well Parnell, how well they market their artists, and it's a tricky one, and you do wonder if it is the time. But then Sarah and Matt had a very successful show straight after you, which is it is tough as artists, isn't it? And that happens sometimes. Yeah, doesn't mean to say your work isn't incredible, or it doesn't mean to say that people don't like it. Yeah. It's just one of those things.
Yeah, it's just what you have to deal with as an artist, and not take it personally. I mean, and it's hard not to take it personally because it is an extension of you when you're creating something, and then you're putting it on the wall because you want the feedback. And the feedback was really nice, what we heard, and when we asked Parnell Gallery afterwards, they said it was great feedback. But unfortunately for Darlene and myself, it was disappointing. But as you say, you learn from it, and I had a bit of a break, gone out and ate worms in the bottom of the garden, and just got into the garden, which is so therapeutic. Yeah, when you're feeling a bit low, and and so I'm ready now to get back in, and I've turned the paintings that I'm not happy with to the backs to me, and Jake set up the ones that I'm happy with and ones that I want to, carry on working on. So I'm ready to get back in there now. I'm excited to get back in there.
That's great. Yeah. And sometimes that little bit of enforced rest can be positive.
Yes. Yeah. We've got a lot done around the garden. Yeah,
that's good. I can't wait to see your garden, actually. Yeah. Definitely going to pop in. Yeah, and it's good that you talk about that, because it is something that sometimes us artists don't want to admit. But I think everyone's had an experience that hasn't made you feel so good, and it is hard because you're in your own head hoping to kind of sort your shit out basically in your head, and you've just got to keep going and carry on. And it's hard because you put so much time and love and effort into it. Yeah. But you were telling me earlier that sometimes you repurpose paintings that don't sell by donating to charities, which I think is such a beautiful idea. Yeah. Can you tell us about that?
Well, it's a warm fuzzies when you know that you're helping. Like the Pancreatic Society fundraiser was a good example. I mean, like the painting that sold went for over, I can't remember exactly how much, but it was over 7,000, which was a big boost to their fundraising. And the hospice, we've given some to hospice, and just more recently the Special Olympics. So these paintings that come off the gallery wall, and you can repurpose, raising money for charities. It's just a really good way of, if I can't make money out of it, some charity can.
Yeah. And you're, it's a good positive outcome for your painting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Which is really generous.
Yeah.
It's a nice way to look at it.
It's nice to give back,
Yeah. I love that. So I think we've kind of painted a nice picture of what your practice is, but can we just really hone in, and could you explain or describe the feel of your paintings? So we know you like to paint big, and we've talked a little bit about process, but we can get onto that in a minute with Jake. But could you just explain the ideas around depth and why you're wanting to create this sort of immersive experience for your viewer?
Yes, I try and get the viewer to not see the whole painting in one quick look, that you get immersed into it and you find things just start to pop out when you look close, and I try to get a flow around with either it's landscapes or the birds, and there's some connection with the birds talking to each other, having conversations amongst the fauna and the landscape. And the layering came about through another accident. That was when I was doing landscapes, Jake would resin over it, and we'd wake up in the morning and there's a moth in the middle of the sky. And there was hours and hours of work with landscapes, so I found quite difficult, and skies, clouds are difficult. So there's a lot of time involved in painting them and getting them right, and then to find a moth or some spider stuck in the gluggy.
That would be so annoying.
It's very annoying. And then I thought, well, I'm not going to waste that work and those hours, and so decided, well, I'll have some flowers hanging down over the landscape. So it became more, didn't become so much a landscape painting or a portrait painting or whatever I was doing, and it became more collage.
And you're bringing, it's like you're painting a sort of exaggerated foreground.
Yes,
almost.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
and that was to cover the moth.
And that was to cover the moth. So that's how that started. Was another happy accident. And then we thought, that's quite cool how you get that. You're trying to get the perspective in the 3D, through your painting technique, but to get it also with the resin, made it really interesting. So we decided do layers of paint, and then Jake would do more layers of resin, so it had a real 3D look to it. The paintings got quite heavy, and we did have a few where they fell up. We had a call from the Vivian Gallery.
Oh, no.
They'd sold one to a keen art collector, and it had fallen off the wall onto her new oak panelled floor, which was a little bit embarrassing.
She may not have put it up right.
No,
it probably needs the extra sort of, those things that you put into the.
I think the frame came away from the back of the painting and fell down, and it was just it looked like the people that bought it thought, no, it's had it.
Oh no!
But Jake was able to, with his handy skills, managed to fix it, and I gave them another layer of resin and a harder frame to make sure it wasn't going to fall off the back.
Wow!
So they were happy at the end. So
yeah, well, that's good.
Lucky it was able to be rescued. Yeah.
And the way that you sort of build the layers with the sanding back and then adding the dye and then painting on top and resining and all of those steps. I mean, there's just a huge amount of steps, isn't there, for each painting?
Yeah, there is. And there's a lot of what we use: spray paint, dye, oil glazing.
And sometimes you use acrylic.
Yeah, acrylic.
Yeah. So you can mix acrylic and paint and oil in one painting. Well, it takes longer to dry before you can
Well, I
resin.
don't use thick oil paint. I just use oil as a glaze.
Right.
Yeah,
So it
the same
dries
way as that I
faster.
use as the dye.
Mm.
As a soft glaze over the top. So it's not thick oil painting. You're not having to wait months. I'm too impatient. I want to do thick oil painting, even though it's beautiful to work with.
Yeah. I wonder if you could ever just have a painting that's an oil painting on the side that you just have there that you pop over to now and then, but have your other works.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That would be quite interesting.
Yeah,
I'd love to see your work as an oil painting.
I used to do oil painting when I was at Unitec, and yeah, did a really lovely one of Caravaggio. Boy, yeah, I stupidly painted over it.
Oh no!
No,
What were you thinking?
a stupid thing to do.
Oh, yeah, we all do that. I think.
Yeah.
And the flowers. Where are you sort of working out what you're doing? Are you doing any drawing at the beginning, or are you just seeing what happens as you go?
It just evolves as I go, and because I paint so fast, it's actually quicker for me to use a big brush and put and because it's acrylic, to swap it off if it doesn't work. And I use a clear spray if I see areas of the pentimento or areas I just don't want to lose. I just put a clear spray over it so it's protected. You don't lose it.
That's interesting. And then can you paint over the clear spray as well?
Yeah.
So you're just building and building and building, which really is, I think, your signature style in a way. It's like you've created quite a unique style in your work. They're very recognizable as your works, which is nice.
Yeah.
But then they're all very different, but they have that signature style, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah. They've got more as we moved up to Warkworth. From my background, where Mum and Dad had the flower nursery, and flowers were in my work, and then we moved up to Warkworth, and it was a bird sanctuary. So we're in between two native bush. Our house is in the middle of that, and that we see the karuru and the tuis, and there's just so many beautiful birds around our property. And I started putting birds into the work. It just seemed a natural progression. And we've planted. The name was Flowers. Actually, the house we bought the place off. But they didn't have any flowers in their garden. It was just trees and bush. Really? So we've spent a lot of money putting decent soil in it because it's horrible clay soil, and having gardens, flowers, because we like colour. And we like to see the bees there and the butterflies there as well as the birds.
So beautiful. And how do you select the types of flowers that you have in a painting? Is it just what you feel like painting, or is it inspired by what you can see?
It's often inspired by what I can see. We've got a lot of hydrangeas because they're so easy to propagate. Just snap it off and put it in the soil when you come to at this time of year. And so inspiration from a lot of hydrangeas.
Do you ever connect the flowers to something that's happening around the world, or something that's happening for you, do you think?
Yes, definitely. In this last exhibition we were looking at Ukraine, the national flower of Ukraine, Russia, Palestine, Israel, the United States, England, New Zealand, and using the flowers as emblems for what their country had initially chosen their national flower for, and what the meaning of it was, and saying, how sad it is that countries can't remember that, like Russia with their flower being the herbal calming chamomile flower, and maybe they could have a look at that, and why they chose it. It's quite sad, really, what's happening with the world at the moment.
Terrible. So you're incorporating those flowers into your works. They are just kind of there subtly, or are they front and centre?
Front and centre has been, my last few have been, the sunflower's been quite prominent, and the iris.
The sunflower, what national flower is that?
Ukraine.
Okay.
Yeah, I did a bit of research about the sunflower, and I think over in there's a big surgence of the flower, the sunflower, around the world, representing Ukraine and what they're going through. And this story of this old lady who had gone up to the Russian soldiers that were in Ukraine and with a whole lot of sunflower seeds and told them to put it in their pockets, so when they died on their land, the Ukraine land, that the sunflowers would grow.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah.
That's really sad.
Yeah.
But it's nice that you can use your floral works to communicate something that's affecting you or affecting your audience or, affecting the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how have you found your practice has connected to sort of personal things? I know your son has battled with addiction. Did you find that was affecting the way you worked?
Yes, yeah, it was. When you've got dealing with something like that, it's grieving, and painting when I'm grieving because I'm watching my son destroy his life and is damaging his brain, and nothing we've been able to do has helped. And I found painting is therapeutic, but then you get yourself, when your head is so busy and you're stressed and not sleeping and your mind is so busy, I found that my paintings became more obsessive and repetitive, and I wasn't leaving lots of spaces. I mean, I look back on works that I thought were more successful and they had more ethereal qualities about them and lots of soft spaces, whereas works when I'm, Sam's been such a big part of, it's really affected our lives, that I find my works got darker and busier, and wouldn't you say? Yeah, Jake? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I mean, I think in some ways it must be a haven for you to be able to take yourself away and kind of process some of those thoughts. But then I also imagine that sometimes you can't paint because you're too...
Yeah,
your head is just you're not in the right headspace. Yeah, so it could be good, but I can imagine at times it's not always helpful.
No, that's right. Yeah,
that's really tough.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you've gone through that.
Yeah, thanks, Mandy. Yeah, it's been a hard road, and we're still going through it, but hopefully a little light at the end of the tunnel now with he's in a rehab.
That's good. Yeah. Okay, we are bringing in Jake Kennedy, who is Jan's husband and collaborator and fellow artist, I'd like to call you. I've also seen that you think of yourself as a PA, an administrator, a resin applicator and a studio technician. So I think studio technician is the official term you like to use. So this is fascinating. I've got so many questions. So you basically started by supporting Jan with her practice when she needed a bit of help with certain things. And then you've actually become quite an integral part of her process, and you have a big influence in those final works and what they look like.
Thanks.
So, I think you're amazing. I think you're very modest, and I want to really lift you up as another incredible creator. So can you tell us a little bit about how you got started assisting, and then we can talk more about the actual process?
Yeah, okay. I'll start off maybe when Jan was decided to do her masters, and Richard Fahey, I just happened to be on the periphery of the conversation, and he said, look, do you realise that this is gaining mastery over your own practice? You're in charge of where it goes, and you will eat, breathe, sleep your art, and it will be totally full immersion. And Jan sort of went, yeah, I can handle that, no sweat. Well, not a truer word was spoken, because the next 3 or 4 years it was total immersion into the practice and where she wanted to go and try. And it was just an absolute honour to be part of that. Making boards or backgrounds or fixing easels or hanging paintings, And then when we got into the resin in the later years, I guess that's where Jan's current work practices are sitting at the moment. I just like to help and support, because the art business is not an easy business to, be sustainable in.
No. And it's very hard when it's just you trying to, get all this stuff done, because there's so many different things artists have to do.
Oh yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, it's so great that you want to support like that, and that you can actually work together, because not every couple could.
Yeah, we're fortunate because we have we have common goals, with the property that we've got. We just keep adding on new buildings to it and cabins. One of our sort of medium-term goals is to set up an area where we call an artist retreat, where other artists or creators can just come and hang out with like-minded people for a weekend or a few days, and hopefully get some inspiration and learn off others. So I'll give that a plug.
Yeah, I love that idea. So is it just kind of bringing your work and working together, or how do you see it?
Haven't really put a picture around that, because most creators that I've met are quite diverse and come up with different ideas on how they want to work together or what they want to do. So just encouraging ideas and helping people get their ideas come into fruition.
Yeah, I love that idea. And I think it would be a fantastic residency as well. Like an artist could do a residency for a period of time, which you have funded by someone, and then they come to your property and work on their practice.
Well, that'd be cool.
That would be cool.
That'd be cool, yeah.
And because I feel like that's the kind of people you are. You've had homestays and boarders, and it's just part of how you live.
Oh, certainly the vibe of our home is a place where people like to gather and just come together and talk and chill out, and we're quite used to having large groups hanging around the property.
I think it would be amazing.
It's fun.
And you do you get visited sometimes by groups, don't you? And they have a look around.
Oh, we've been getting groups. We just sort of opened it up last year, and so we've had Ryman. They have local arts groups. Kowhai Arts have been round, and we put on a pot of tea and make some scones, and Jan will give a painting demo. I might show what we're doing with resin and pentimento. So it's a learning experience. Everybody hangs out and laughs and jokes. And
I love that.
Yeah, it's a good few hours.
It's so good. And your house is so unique and incredible, and a sort of visual feast. So people would love that part of it, and then they get to see your artwork as well. And is that at all a sort of selling opportunity, do you see, for paintings?
A selling opportunity? Not really. It's more about sharing what we do, and if people are interested enough, then we might, or Jan might get a commission work out of it. But we're looking now at not just original work sales. We're maybe looking at getting into prints, maybe some fabrics. I'd like to have a play with some light boxes, actually.
Yeah, that'd be beautiful.
So that'd be quite cool.
There's a light box up there, yeah.
I know.
Yeah, that would be
That's one
really
of the ones
beautiful.
that inspired me.
That's a good idea. And it feels like you are the sort of person, a bit like my husband really, who can do lots of things. You have lots of ideas, and you can sort of figure it out, solve the problems, and, make stuff happen.
Try to, yeah.
Yeah, which is so good. And how cool to have such a great team, the two of you, working together, and you're obviously so like-minded, and you're so cute. Oh my gosh, how did you actually meet, can I ask?
We met online.
Yeah,
yeah, we met online. And I was...
Is that how you described yourself?
That is our name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we can't actually hear you speaking, Jan, so we'll have to leave it to the
okay.
to
Yeah,
Jake.
so my pseudonym was Shaven, not Bald, and Jan was Gypsy Rose. And, it worked. It just worked pretty quickly straight away.
Really?
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
How good. And then how did you how did you become involved in the practice? Was it quite immediate?
Well, I was working shift work at the time, so I had days off during the week where I could help out. So we did a huge house renovation on Vancouver Ave in Sandringham, and that was going on at the same time Jan was finishing her masters. So when all that came to its conclusion, we were in a position to be able to move up to Warkworth. So that worked out well.
That's so good.
I guess I've been involved in the practice most of the time that we've known each other. We travelled over to France and Italy to meet up with Jan's parents who were doing a cruise. And that was like full immersion into old school art, the Louvre, the L'Orangerie, Monet's exhibition, Caravaggio. It was just, it was a full-on 3-4 week crash course in art history.
Wow.
It was fantastic. Yeah, I learned so much.
And were you interested in art before you met Jan?
Yep, yeah. I've always been more in problem solving, creating, come up with an idea to try something different. So, but I had a fairly structured work life. I used to work for the fire service, so it's all paramilitary.
Yeah, interesting. So interesting. I just love it. I think it's such a beautiful connection that you two have, and what you make together is so deeply personal and beautiful. So can you tell us about what you actually do on these paintings?
Oh, okay. So I guess it started off with the resin and putting it as a layer on top of Jan's works. And then, as Jan said, we layer it up with maybe 2, 3, 4 layers to give it that three-dimensional effect. And then recently I've started playing around with pigments and dyes and colouring the resin, and how when it's applied you can create, well, you don't create it, different shapes appear, and because it's very malleable, it moves all around the place. So I'm still very much experimental about the whole thing, creating, I guess you'd call them my works.
Yeah, so you're doing another sort of series, which you are the artist, and I hope you're thinking of yourself as that.
The creative. We'll go creative.
So you're doing quite sort of modern colour works, aren't you, out of resin?
Yeah. Trying to experiment and work with colours, and which colours go together and which colours really don't. So that's I've had a few errors, but by putting another coloured resin over the top of, say, a mistake, you can then blend it in or hide it or work with it. So that's been quite cool. Yeah,
it's so good that you've sort of got to that point where it's like you're creating your own practice as well alongside.
Well, the other thing, we've got work going into art in the park again in the outdoor sculpture one. We put 3 big works in there last year, and they've invited us back again. So I'll be back into building big easels and creating some large-scale works. Because I think probably one of the moves to large-scale works came back when Jan was exhibiting at the Vivian, and she did a work that was 3 metres by 2 metres. It was a really, really cool big work. And that took a lot of resin. I
can imagine.
Yeah. So applying resin to big works has its challenges.
Yeah. What's your actual process with that? Like, can you tell us about the tools and the type of resin you use?
It's a 2-pot polyester resin that I use. It's called Art Clear. It has a UV inhibitor in it, which is good. And I mix it up in a bucket. I use, a couple of litres at a time just because they're big works. And I've learned a lot about it. Jan used to paint on ACM, signboard, aluminium, and I'd resin on top of that. And what we found was that the resin and the aluminium had different contraction expansion ratios, and the resin would crack. So we've had a few paintings be returned that we need to repair and sort of fix up. So we've gone away from ACM now, which has been good.
So what do you normally paint on now? Is it hardboard?
I make up frames that are out of either ply or poplar ply or, good hard surfaces, because we need something that'll support the weight of the resin when we pour it. And then we've been using canvas. I've been putting gluing the canvas down to the ply, and then Jan will paint on top of that. From memory, we were running out of materials. And as Jan said before, it's nice to have a starting point. So I think it was an old painting that we had, and I glued down to a board that was the starting point, and then we've managed to layer that up with resin. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And so just a normal canvas on a frame is not strong enough?
Not really, because it'll sag.
Yeah.
The weight of the resin causes it to sag. I mean, you can block it up, but it's easier if it's on a hard surface.
So is it normally painted on the hard surface or now becoming more canvas stuck?
The canvas is attached to the hard surface, so it doesn't sag yet.
Oh.
Yeah.
And why canvas? Why not just straight onto board?
Because they're old paintings.
Oh, all right. The old paintings.
Old works that we can then reconstruct, I guess, is that the word?
I love that idea.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's smart, yeah. And how do you get that perfect resin finish?
Good luck most of the time. I like resin artists. I use a flame to flame off the surface before it cures, and that brings the little bubbles out. Try and keep the area as dust free as we possibly can, which is pretty hard with the pets, but
and also the bugs.
Yeah, the bugs, they're lovely.
Do you ever just kind of tweezer them out if they...
After every pour, we'll sit there with a pair of tweezers for about the next 15, 20 minutes before it forms a skin on it and pick any little hairs or bugs out. Yeah.
Oh, wow. You can imagine the bugs like, hey, they're putting down the resin, guys. Come on in.
Yeah, come on in. yeah. So, it's pretty labour intensive.
Yeah.
But it's worth it in the end.
And you do, I've seen videos of you sort of pouring out of the bucket, but then you also use, what kind of tool do you actually use for smoothing?
Yeah, I just use a tile grouting spreader, just a plastic spreader.
Yeah.
And that helps to get an even surface across the whole thing. Or if I want to build it up in a certain area, I can draw more resin into it, which I'm doing with the coloured resins now, because the thicker it is, the more depth of colour as well. So it's...
and are you playing with pigments like powdered pigments or liquid?
Yep. Yeah, powdered pigments, liquid, dyes, paint, anything that'll just play.
Go with the resin.
That's
so good.
Yeah, that's fun.
I love that. And are you showing some of your works out in the park as well?
I haven't thought about it yet, because considering they're outdoor works, not sure how they'd go out there yet.
So they're outdoor paintings of Jan's and yours.
Yeah.
That you can have outside.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. That's quite a cool concept.
Well, garden art. So we've got a couple in our place in the bush and out in the garden, and just to see how they weather. So we've got a couple of prototypes.
Beautiful.
It's good fun.
Yeah, I love that. Very cool. Well, a big thank you to you, Jake. You aren't on the microphone anymore to say anything back to me, but thank you so much for for coming down here with Jan and being prepared to have a little chat on the podcast with me. It's really nice to chat to you, and I know that we're going to spend some time together up at your place at some point, so I look forward to that. And I just think it's very cool the way you work together, you two. So back to you, Janette, just another couple of little curious questions from me. You mentioned that you get a number of bits, different colours of paint on your brush and then paint with that. How do you actually do that part of the process?
I've got a big palette, a stay wet palette, which has a wet sponge underneath and the paper on top, and I just get the bottles of. I use Joe Sonia as the background because they're good for blending, and I'll just get going from light to dark on my palette, from white through to black and all the colours in between, and I'll just load the brush up, the big wide brush, 5 inches, and start from one corner to the other corner, and then being careful not to flip the brush over, which is easy for me because I've done it for so long. But when I'm showing other people, and I think this is so simple, I've been doing it's easy, but people will inevitably move the brush over, and it just becomes mud. You've always got to keep it the same way up.
And how do you actually get those little different colours on your brush evenly across your brush?
Just by blending on the palette, and then I'll go onto after I've blended it well, and it's just a nice easy morphing of colours, and then you just put a big wide stroke on the brush.
So it's capturing light and dark somehow.
Yes, it is. Yeah, going from the darkest to the lightest. So.
And is it tones of one colour from white down to black?
No, different colours.
Different colours?
Yeah, I'll go, how would I normally? Black maybe, and then a purple madder, and then into, if I'm going to do a reddish tone, I'd go into red, rose pink. Often put a bit of, when I go into the rose pink, then I'll put a bit of yellow will come into it, a little bit of green, a little bit of white, so you get a whole blend of colours in one stroke.
Which is quite a different technique. And is it a folk art thing you were saying?
Well, at folk art, you normally just have maybe 2 colours on your brush. So when I was learning to use a bigger brush, well, it sort of inevitably lends itself to more colours. So, and it's just practicing. A lot of it is just practice. Yeah.
And was it something that you kind of discovered accidentally, and then you were encouraged to kind of continue down that path?
Well, encouraged to use the big house brush from my tutors, and just went from there. Just kept practicing and playing around with mixing colours, and that's how that came to be.
And then it becomes, when it's on the painting, it does become quite subtle. I mean, it's not like you can see what you've done with those paints on the brush.
No, I think people are quite amazed when they see how it transforms from the brush into a rose, just with a few strokes, because most of the work's done on the brush, just the blending.
That's incredible.
It's done. Whereas using a little brush, I mean, that could take somebody with a lot of patience, way more patience than me, hours to do.
Yeah.
I just want quick results.
And do you have different strokes for different petals?
Yeah. I use different brushes for, like a daisy, you'd use a full bit with the rounded edge. The roses, I use an angle brush, and flat brushes for the leaves. So, and then a stippling brush when I come back into detail.
So you do come back over those brush strokes,
and go down the brush sizes to get the detail, the eyes of the birds and their feet and feathers and stamens of the flowers. Going through a range of brushes. So, although it looks quick when people see the initial beginning of the painting, it gets more detailed.
But the actual petal that you've used those different colours in stays pretty much, that's it.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. And you have one room in your house for your studio, is that right?
I've taken over I had actually the best room in the house, the front room, but I destroyed the floors on that and in the walls, and I got moved into the garage, which we had lined and painted in really good lighting. So Jake's now without a garage. So we've just brought down the container, and he's going to put his resin table in there and do resining and in there. So
that's a good idea.
Yeah,
amazing. And are you a tidy artist?
No, I'm very messy.
I had a feeling you were going to say that for some reason.
Yeah, I drive myself insane trying to find things. Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. And what would your work be like, do you think, if Jake wasn't involved?
Gosh, well, I wouldn't be able to do the big works. When he was talking about the botanical at Fantastical, which I think was my, the most successful, because it was sort of a reenactment of the whole studio. It was a small space, and all the walls were covered in these big paintings. So you walk in and experience it like you did when you walked into my studio. We had Linda Tyler had curated, I think it was the women's show in the big area of the Vivian Gallery, and I had this little space.
What would you say? These are just a few little curious questions that I haven't prepped you for. But what do you think would be the most significant moment in your art career?
Moment. Well, I think us going on the sub-Antarctic trip was pretty incredible. Going on the Heritage Expedition as the artist on board.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I had an email saying they'd like me to come as artist on board, and I thought, oh, that's going to be too expensive. We can't afford to go and do that. So I didn't even reply to it. And then I got a phone call to say, we haven't had a response from you. We want each few years we get an artist on board, come down to the sub-Antarctic. And they said they just want 2 paintings from me for it. And I said, well, actually, it's my husband's 65th birthday coming up, which is quite a big one. And I was looking at something for him, but perhaps he could come on board. And she said, yes, he could if you do 4 paintings for us. So, we packed up and went on this big trip. And I was a little nervous because I get car sick. And we're going down to the southern seas, what do they call them, the roaring 40s and furious 50s. And I thought, oh, my God, what have I done?
And did you go down on a boat?
We went down on a Russian ship, research ship.
Wow.
So they made it quite clear to us it wasn't a cruise. It was an expedition ship. So... yeah, and it certainly was not a cruise. So, yeah, that was just incredible. Just the islands just full of no humans on them, and just the bird life was, and the seals, it was incredible. So taking photos, we took lots of photos, and you just don't know where to put the camera. There was just so much, so incredible. So that was that was a great adventure doing that.
That sounds amazing. And how good, to be approached like that and to have that kind of opportunity.
Yeah, it was.
And that's a reflection of the artist you are.
Yeah, well, thanks. But it was. I'm glad I did it, but I don't know if I'd do it again because I was quite sick a lot of the time.
Really? But you got the 4 paintings done?
Got the paintings, and it was lovely when you got onto the zodiacs and you could go in on the islands. That was cool. But out on the rough seas, and we'd be up and down on my little cab, on my bed, and then that way. And Jake's, the chefs actually made a cake for him. There was 2 chefs that made a cake, and they had a big birthday celebration, happy birthday song and everything for Jake while I was throwing up in the toilet.
Really? Oh my gosh, that would be hard.
The whole thing, but some very nice person videoed it for me. But no, I was quite ill on that trip.
And there's nothing worse. There's nothing worse than seasickness. Yeah. But the great thing about seasickness is you can hop off the boat and straight away you feel good.
Yes, yeah. So now I've got the T-shirt, been there, done that. But we've got so many photos. I want to do more work. Eventually, get back and do some more work with some around the sub-Antarctic trip.
Did it sort of change or influence your work?
Yeah, I think it was. Just the untouched world, and the paintings I have done in the past of pink and white terraces of the huia, it is talking about conservation and what we need to look after our planet.
Well, that would have been an amazing experience.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And what's your proudest moment?
Probably getting my master's, I think. Going back to school at my age,
especially after a negative experience at school.
Negative, yeah, definitely.
Earlier,
yeah. No, I think it's been really. I've been really lucky with the tutors I've had. Some amazing tutors, and I wouldn't have been able to do it without Jake. Doing my master's, and Mandy Thomas Taylor, yeah.
No, I think you should be proud of that. That's huge. And what do you think being an artist? I'm just trialing these curious questions, which when I'm researching, I get so many sort of just nosy questions in my head, which I don't always ask. So bear with me. You're the first guinea pig. What has being an artist taught you about life?
Not to worry and compare yourself to others, I think. That's not been that helpful to me. I think I've just focused on what I want to say in a painting, visual communication, and experiment. Don't give up. Just keep at it. Yeah, I mean, like the show that we just had. I think you develop a thick skin and just enjoy the experience. It's not about selling the work. It's not about any accolades. It's doing what what you enjoy doing, what you love doing.
Yeah, that's about the process.
About the process, yeah. Just experiment, play,
yeah,
have fun.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. And I really think if you can just think about process and making more than selling, although that's not always practical because you do have to make some money, ideally. But if you can just kind of go there, then, you know, and even for me sharing my open studio this last weekend, I for the first time really had no worries about what people thought of it.
Yeah.
And so it's like I'm developing as an artist because I'm just doing some really personal stuff that is important for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's like sometimes it takes a while to get to that point.
Yeah. It can take years to get to that point.
Yeah, and some people probably never do. But I think if you can focus on that, but then there is the selling pressure at the same time.
Yeah, that's right. And you've got to pay the mortgage somehow.
Yeah. Anyway, so that kind of covers the other question about what would you say to your younger artistic self, probably.
Yeah.
But is there anything in particular you might say to yourself?
Yeah, just lighten up, you know, and have fun. Explore, experiment. Yeah.
And which artist are inspiring for you?
Gosh, there's so many. Dead ones. Caravaggio was a big influence. The dark and the dark and the light. And the Vanitas painters, still life Vanitas painters were a huge influence. And I think these days, well, just this weekend actually, going to the art fair and I listened to a talk with Linda Tyler, who was my examiner at my master's, was seeing her. So made me a little nervous.
Really?
And Catherine Throne, what she's doing with her very tactile, gestural, thick paint with the flowers and the dark and the light, and her garden sounds quite wild, and she's got that entangled, free looseness to her floral paintings. I think listening to her was really inspiring. Her work's very inspiring. Tanya Blong. We walked along up to her place in the Murawai Arts Trail, which was this weekend as well. And her colour palette is just, it's beautiful. Her style is inspiring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Julie Battersley, I'm not sure how you pronounce her surname, Battersley. Beautiful big floral flowers. Her clouds, which I find incredibly hard to paint, are just amazing.
Is that Julie Battisti?
Julie Battisti. Yeah, beautiful work. And,
she's very talented.
Yeah.
And can you ever see yourself painting something that's not floral?
Yeah, I can. Actually. I mean, I've always enjoyed portraiture, so I might
come back to that.
Maybe looking at the Nun series I did, maybe.
Oh, yes, the Nun series. Was that like some sort of cathartic?
It was some cathartic.
Letting go, or either letting go or sort of harassing the nuns one more time.
Yeah. One of our projects we had to do something that was traumatic in our childhood.
Really?
And those nuns could be, pretty violent, yeah.
Isn't it awful?
Oh, gosh, some of them just shouldn't have been anywhere near young teaching. Well, they didn't go to teachers' training college or anything. Yeah, and they just used to like to hit you for no reason. You'd walk past and just get slapped with the knuckle with the ruler. And I had one of the worst teachers, and she would just beat me over the head because I wasn't very good at maths with the Form 1 and 2 maths book hardcover, and I was crouched down on the desk and my hands over like that, and she'd just come around and beat me over the head. But one time the door opened and I thought, oh, thank God, someone's come and can see what she's doing. And it was the head nun, and she just, because she was about this far away from the door, and she mouthed, I'll come back later, and just shut the door. But eventually she broke a guitar over a girl's head. She locked my friend Jenny in the cupboard. But finally she got removed from the school. But it was pretty traumatising having her as a teacher.
It would be. Well, that's child abuse.
It was child abuse, it was.
That is shocking.
But nuns and priests were revered back then. You couldn't really say anything against the nuns. You weren't heard.
Isn't it strange that just, because of their religion they could become teachers and didn't need any training? It's very odd.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's good that you've left that behind and responded to that in a cool way with
with a bit of humour.
With your portraits. Yeah, they're great. And I wonder if I actually can see you doing Vanitas sort of style, still life kind of work, because you've been working on objects in the past, and it just feels like that could work as well. I wonder if you'd come up with another technique, or if you'd kind of bring that into the techniques you use now.
Yeah, I do. I was just looking at an artist yesterday who does contemporary Vanitas and have more ways of painting, even with the pentimento, dyeing imperfect flowers that are, rather than all of them at full bloom looking glorious, some more imperfection coming through, more stages of the end of life. Yeah, the work out in the park is something new for us too, putting outdoor works.
Yeah.
And that's fun. We've got the big easel. It's like a giant has come along and just upped and left partway through the painting, where the rag is as stiff as anything hanging over the big shelf Jake creates, and there's drips of resin that we use, coloured resin, and with the sun filtering through it, the colours are just lovely. They hang down like what are they? Icicles with colour through.
Beautiful.
And then the big pots with the thick big brushes, house brushes that I use, there's resin dripping from one to the other and over the pot and down the. And
wow.
I mean, that's fun, and it looks nice, and that you go past them and catch the light through the coloured resin.
Yes. And
then the paintings are pretty big, but we're not putting resin on the painting because even with the UV, it says UV resistant, but they're still yellow. So we're using spray paint and varnish, marine varnish, and they seem to be holding up pretty well.
That's great. Yeah. I can't wait to see those. Have to. We'll put a photo in the blog post if you've got one. Yeah.
We've said we'll do 3, so that's in September, I think. So we'll have to get cracking onto those soon.
Yeah, that's great.
That'll come by quickly.
Yeah, exciting. And what do you find the most challenging aspect of being an artist?
Marketing, selling, promoting your work. I think most artists I know aren't very good at promoting themselves, and the business side of things. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
And finally, why do you make the kind of work you make? I think we may have covered that.
Oh, because it's fun. I enjoy it, and flowers are uplifting. Yeah, birds are uplifting. It's joyful. I want it to be joyful, and I want it to be beautiful. I do, even though I put some sort of sometimes a bit macabre things in there. The overall intention is to have something joyful and celebrate nature.
Yeah. I've so enjoyed having you here, both of you. It's been hard for Jake to sit there and not say anything because he hasn't got a microphone. You've done well. And, it's just been so lovely to connect again. And thank you very, very much for sharing your incredible practice with us.
Oh, thanks, Mandy. Very, very nice of you to invite us. It was a bit of a surprise and an honour.